All right, guys, welcome back to another new episode. Not only a new episode, but a new season of the Mirrorless podcast. New season, new vibes. And today we have two super dope creators, Nick and Sam. So without further ado, I just want them to introduce themselves, tell us where they're from and what you do. And Nick, you can go ahead first.
Okay, my name's Nick Jones. I am from New Hampshire, and I am a videographer, photographer, like YouTuber. Yeah.
And my name's Sam Nadeau. I'm from Rhode Island, and same as Nick, videographer, photographer. I do social media stuff. Yeah, it's pretty much what I do.
I should also probably
Sweet.
say Sam and I run a video production company together.
Yeah, dude,
Seamount
plug
Media.
it, man. Yes, sir. Plug
A little
that.
shameless plug.
We love it. We love those. So I guess, how do we know each other? I randomly just came across Nick's YouTube channel and then randomly hit him up on Instagram and then saw Sam's channel and randomly followed him, and look at us now. We're doing a podcast together.
You know, I remember like seeing your comments on both Instagram and YouTube for like months, and I would always respond, but then I thought nothing of it, and then I forget when we actually started like DMing.
Yeah,
I think it was something random, but yeah. And then
We were
Sam.
just like, wait, this guy takes like really good photos.
True.
Get
Yeah.
to know him.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and the cool thing was that like you guys were local, somewhat, you know, like the New England area. So I was like, I gotta reach out to these guys and see how cool they are and see if we can collab on something. But it's super dope that we get to do this. But Nick, the fans want to know like how you're doing with the ankle injury, like how far you come.
Okay, yeah, well, long story short, I broke my fibula, and that was about 6.5 weeks ago. So actually, starting 2 days ago was the first day I could put, like, somewhat pressure on it. And throughout this week, I'm progressing to, like, walking normally. As of today, I'm still using a crutch, but I'm putting the most pressure I have in a while on it. It feels weird. And it's like,
Yeah.
in my head, I know my body is, like, ready for it to like be full weight bearing, but it's like my mind, or no, kind of the opposite. I know in my mind it's okay to step, but my body is like hesitant to, and I find
Yeah,
myself
it's all
like
mental.
stopping.
Yeah.
But hopefully by next Wednesday I should be out of this boot and back to normal.
Nice, awesome. And then Sam just went through a gruesome surgery as well. How are you doing, Sam?
Yeah, I got my wisdom teeth out, but I think out of everybody, like ever, I think I've had the smoothest like wisdom teeth recovery process, because like literally the day I got back, like barely any pain, and I just have like small holes in my mouth where the teeth were, and the oral surgeon was like, yeah, everything came out super easily. And I'm like, sweet, I don't have to worry about like chipmunk cheeks or anything like that.
Yeah, no, like you don't have any swelling or anything. So I
Nothing.
mean, you look good. Nick looks good. So we're awesome. We're glad to have you guys on the podcast. So let's get to know you or Nick and Sam. So Sam, if you want to go first, so what do you classify yourself as? A photographer or videographer or both?
So I think more so than Nick, I'm a little bit of both. I started with video, and I feel like that's kind of more my priority. Basically, everything started for me with a soccer channel that I started with like my neighbor. It's called JS Soccer, if anybody wants to follow it.
Okay.
We're still posting stuff on our YouTube and our Instagram. But like basically I kind of just started like filming stuff on my phone and just messing around with soccer skills and like the backyard and stuff like that. And then eventually I kind of wanted to start adding some more production value, because I noticed like other soccer creators on Instagram and YouTube had like some cameras and some nice editing and stuff like that. So I kind of just taught myself how to use cameras that way. And I didn't even buy my first like real camera until I want to say 2019. I was still doing stuff on my phone up until then. Actually, no, wait. Before that, I had a like Canon Vixia camcorder. So until then, like I didn't have any sort of real like photo camera. I was just shooting on a camcorder and then taking photos on my phone. And then finally, I was able to start upping the production value with my new Sony camera. And ever since then, I've kind of just fallen in love with video and photo, and I decided that's kind of the career path I wanted to take. So I've only been doing it for like a couple of years professionally. But yeah, that's kind of where I am.
That's dope. And then, so you're both photographer and videographer. That's awesome.
Right.
And then Nick, what about you?
Okay, well, long story short, I would say I'm both, but I would definitely, if anyone asks me, I always say I'm a videographer rather than saying I'm a photographer. However, opposite, I started as a photographer in, I think, the summer right after I graduated high school. I got my first camera, which was a Canon Rebel T6, not even the T6i, just the T6. And I spent the whole summer just taking random photos because like the spring before, some of my friends just happened to have a camera, and that was my first ever experience with one. Like my friends just taking photos of us. Like we went to Boston a couple times, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Maybe I should try it. So I got this camera for like a graduation present in high school. Used it all summer. I quickly outgrew it, and within those 3 months, I was ready for a new one. So I went to college, and I think probably November of 2017, I got the Canon 80D, and that was also the same time where I went to Acadia for the first time, and that was like, I still had my intro-level camera when I was in Acadia, and all I did was take photos there. But then in the fall, that first fall semester of college is when I tried video for the first time. The first one I ever made was just this random day trip with my friends, like a little highlight video, but I used like that intro-level camera. And then once I did that first one, I was like, that's when I kind of fell in love with video, and I just wanted to try and get better. Sam Colder, his like My Year 2016, the classic, that first amazing My Year video was the one that made me want to try video. So yeah, long story short, I would say I'm a videographer, but I still do take photography, and I still love photography, but
Yeah.
I'm a videographer.
Yeah, and people know me, but I kind of started off in video first. Like when I was younger, I would just videotape myself playing basketball and stuff, and then I always liked taking high quality photos. Like I was always on an iPhone, smartphone, whatever, take a good photo and edit it, and then slowly started to get into professional photography, and able to get my first DSLR. It's been like 4 years now, I think, doing it in total, like maybe 4 or 5 years. So it's been good though. And then Nick, you go first. What do you consider you like specialize in?
See, that is hard for me to answer because I don't know if I personally have a specialty, because I've always just done everything. I've never really focused in on one. Like I know Sam does more like product photos than I do because he runs his soccer thing, and it's all like taking cleat photos and like jersey stuff. So like that's probably his specialty, but I never really had anything like that. I do product photos, but I also do like everything else. So I don't really know. Yeah.
You're a man of many good trades and your specialty and everything. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, Nick kind of said it already. In terms of like photography, I would definitely say product photos are my strong suit because I'm just used to shooting soccer cleats and soccer jerseys and stuff like that. But I really do kind of try to dip my toes into everything. I like to be versatile. I've been enjoying landscape photography, specifically with an iPhone actually, because I finally upgraded to like the newer iPhones from the iPhone 8. So I got the iPhone 12 Pro, and I've been messing around with the ultra wide, trying to get some cool landscape shots. So I'm liking how those are turning out. I also tend to do some portraits, pretty much anything you can think of. I've shot it.
Yeah, for sure. That's dope. I know for myself, I think I started off in portraits, taking pictures of people. That's helped me do engagements, weddings, and stuff. But I think what I enjoy shooting is sports. So basketball, baseball, football. I have a strong love for basketball, so I like to stay around that sport as much as I can. What are your guys' favorite things to shoot? Like, I know you guys shoot everything, but what do you think is your favorite thing to shoot?
Nick,
I
you
would
wanna go?
sorry. I would say for me it probably is portraits and product photos. I mean, I started off on landscapes. That was like the one thing I loved doing. But I don't know, I feel like with portraits and product photos, I like them more because I have more control with both of those. Like with product photos, you're the one placing the product, and like the OCD in me like likes to have it be perfect. And like even same thing with models and like portraits, you can just kind of direct them and like tell them what to do. You can add props, and I would always personally prefer to have something in there to make it more like creative and fun, like smoke grenades and stuff. That's just fun to use, and I associate that with like portraits. But yeah, just being able to control my scene a little more than like a landscape, I prefer those like genres.
Yeah,
of
that's always
photography.
nice to have too, just a little bit more control. Sam, what about you?
I think so. If I'm talking like my favorite things to shoot, I think I'm actually kind of more the opposite of Nick, where I kind of like to shoot things as they are. I don't really like to manipulate the environment too much. I mean, even with when I shoot like soccer cleat photos and product photos, I kind of just leave things as is. Especially with the cleats, I just have somebody like run or jump or something like that.
It's kind of like the raw look, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And I also tend to find like I don't shoot street photography very often, but when I do shoot it, I feel like I have the most fun just because I'm just finding all those unique angles in a city and you're just running around spraying photos. And usually I end up with some of like my favorite photos I've taken, and landscapes too. I also love shooting those. Especially when me and Nick went to Acadia, I found those are some of like my favorite landscape photos that I ever took, just because we are in this like super new place to me, and yeah, I was just able to photograph it, and it was awesome.
yeah, I don't do landscapes a lot, but when you can just like take a good landscape, it's kind of so satisfying. It's a totally different type of photography, but I mean, obviously there's tons of different avenues of photography, but when you can take like a good landscape, it's just like, man, that's awesome. And especially somewhere like Acadia Park or somewhere like up north. Where is that? That's like in
It's in
in
Maine.
Maine.
Rhode Island. Oh, Maine. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And I've
Another
never
thing I
been there, so
find, another thing I find with like landscape photos, like if you take a good landscape photo, like you want to put it up somewhere. Like you like if I mean if you take
you
a
want to
good
print it out. You want to
exactly.
print out a big poster or something.
If you like take a product photo or like street photos, you're not as inclined to like print it or something. So like this little photo behind me of it's
Oh,
the Rhode Island State House. That was when me and Nick shot like um we shot a travel video for Rhode Island. It was just one of Nick's projects. But like
nice.
I mean it's kind of like a mix between street and landscape, but if that was a portrait, probably wouldn't be up there.
True. Very true. Very true.
Speaking of that, like my favorite, that was like photography, but like for as far as video goes, my favorite thing to shoot would be like those cinematic travel videos, if you will. Even though they're like at this point in 2021, they're like cheesy to make at this point, and they're like overused, overseen, but
Yeah.
they're just they're fun to make, and like they're fun to edit because then it's like a personal project. No one's telling you to do it. You can shoot literally whatever you want, and then when you're editing, you can do any transition you want that's expected, and it's just more fun than like a
Yeah.
business promo or like a vlog. Like it's just more fun.
I
Yeah,
also see
for
those
sure.
travel videos as kind of like I would put it as like a flex kind of. Not in terms of like where you've been or what you've done, but like your abilities with
That's
a
true.
camera.
I used
I've
the Rhode Island one at the time to showcase or attempt to showcase my ability. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
definitely true.
It's like you put every bit of editing skill that you have into those travel videos, and you also put every bit of shooting skill that you have.
Because in a lot of projects, you're not using all of your skills. Like, if you're doing like a professional client shoot, like if you're doing like a real estate video, you're not gonna be doing all these crazy transitions, and like it's
Exactly.
not that hard to shoot a like real estate thing. Like, you don't need a lot of like camera skill per se, but with these more creative projects, it's like you need all your skills.
Well put. Well put.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, so let's get into questions for Nick and Sam. Obviously, this is kind of where my podcast kind of started. We were talking about photography, and we had like different questions. But the first question is, do you trust the process?
Okay, before we answer, can you elaborate on that? I think I have a feeling of like what you are asking us, but I want to hear like your take.
So my take is pretty much, obviously we all have like an end goal in mind. You know, I want to be this type of photographer, etc. It's not going to happen overnight. And what you have to understand is that it is going to be a process. So there's going to be, you know, progression, and there's going to be setbacks. And it's kind of just like your trusting process where like you're expecting those setbacks, you're expecting to progress over time, but all that success doesn't happen overnight. It's going to be a continuous process to get to where you got to go. So, you know, you can see the where I stand on that. But yeah, and I've always like kind of stuck to that saying as well. It's just trust it, man. Like, obviously, like I think you could get very discouraged like looking at other people's work and be like, man, I want to do that, but like they didn't start making like dope videos. Like, the first video wasn't dope, their first photo wasn't dope, you know what I'm saying? So like it's just a slow progression, and you'll get there, but you just have to expect the setbacks and stuff. All that stuff is going to come, but your end goal is still the same.
Okay, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, but I will let Sam go first.
Oh wow, really putting me on the spot. I think I want to trust the process, but I'm kind of wired in a way that I don't all the time, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna take this way back for you guys. So when I played soccer, I always got very emotional when I played because I had a passion for it, right? And if I like didn't play as well as I wanted to, or messed up something like that, I would get angry. And I feel like I kind of have some of that emotion carrying over into other things. So like if I got a bad grade on a test in school, I would kind of get on myself, get angry at myself and stuff like that. And I think there are moments when I realize like this is part of your growth, this is part of developing. But there are a lot of times where I find that I'm like putting myself down, or like if we bring this into photography and filmmaking, like I didn't make enough money this month, I didn't book enough clients or stuff like that. But I also have to realize, like, me and Nick, we just started our company. Like, we're not going to get a ton of clients and stuff right away. So I think I want to trust the process, but I need to work on the internals a little bit in order to actually trust it. That makes sense.
I got you.
Yeah, no, that's actually really interesting. For me, I feel like I have learned to trust the process. I didn't initially, and I do now. So like for me, kind of going back, it's gonna sound like selfish and like, I don't know, make me look bad, but basically I've been used to like being good at things, or like not being the best, but like being pretty good at what I do, like in all assets of life. So then when I started like photography, obviously I wasn't good, I was bad, but like, I don't know, in the moment I liked it so much that was like the first thing where I kind of accepted that I was going to be bad at first, and then I kind of learned from that one thing to like change my mindset of, okay, I'm not going to be good at everything instantly, like it's going to take time. And then when I started YouTube, like I've made a couple of videos of like me kind of currently reacting to my old videos, and how cringy they are. Like my first videos on YouTube were so like atrocious, but I still look back at them now because I like, if I'm cringing at an old video, I see that as a good thing because that shows that I'm progressing. And then I kind of stopped watching him, but there was this other random YouTuber, like a pro skateboarder. I don't even know why I was watching him, but I used to watch him. And he had a saying. I've bought his merch, and his saying was progress daily. And I have a hoodie that says that, or at least I used to. And I used to kind of live by that quote because like his whole story and like how he went about life was kind of like what I wanted to do. So progress daily was something that I drilled into my head. And for YouTube, I knew for a fact I was not going to be one of those people who blew up overnight. Like the chance of it happening was so small that in my head I just saw it as it's just not going to happen. So that was my view going into YouTube, which I personally think is a better view to go into it rather than like hoping that you'll blow up. Like acting like you won't will, one, like make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and then two, it'll just make you kind of grow naturally, I guess. So even though on my YouTube channel I've barely grown and it's been like 4 years now, I'm okay with that. And at first I wanted to go YouTube full time, and I think about a year or so ago I kind of changed my mind because I wanted to transition into like commercial work and like freelancing, starting a company. So now my end goal is kind of like to do that, like move into commercial work full time, get a company actually like up and running off the ground to be like an established, like comfortable company in this like industry. And then if I'm still gonna do YouTube, but if I just happen to blow up, then so be it. But blowing up on YouTube is not the goal.
All right, so this question could trigger some creators. I love this question, but do you think gear matters? Because we have a lot of like YouTubers and everything saying like gear does not matter, but I think that's I'll give my opinion, but I want to hear your guys' take on it. Sam, you go first if you have a take.
I do have
Go
a
ahead.
pretty good take on it because I almost made a video on this for my YouTube channel, but I figured it'd be a little bit too cliche to do it, so I didn't. But anyway, my ultimate stance is that I think gear does matter, but gear is not everything. That makes sense. So gear matters in the sense that say you get a new camera or new lens, something like that, new gimbal, whatever. Once you get that new thing, you're like instantly motivated to go make something with it. At least I am. In that sense, I think gear is incredible. And I also think gear matters because it is the tool that lets you do your job to the best of your ability. If you have a nice piece of gear, a nice camera, a nice lens, it shows that you care about the types of things you're making, you care about your craft, all that sort of stuff. And then gear is not everything in the sense that if you have a better camera, you're automatically going to be better at photography and filmmaking. No, that's not a thing at all. That's what everybody always preaches against. It all comes down to the skills on the particular photographer or videographer, not the gear that makes them better. But I think gear is definitely important and definitely worth investing in, and it's not like it doesn't matter. That's all.
Okay, yeah, I agree with everything Sam said. Like, long story short, yes, I think gear matters. And yeah, the reason that people make those videos saying that gear does not matter is because like, people complain that they can't make like a cool video on their iPhone. Like, they can't afford to buy an actual DSLR or mirrorless camera. But personally, I have made videos on my iPhone on like cheap mirrorless cameras, and like I think they look fine. Yes, will it look better on a $3,500 A7S III? Yes, but not necessarily if you don't know how to use it. So like you need the skills to kind of use the gear. And yeah, as Sam was saying, it matters when gear becomes a problem that it is like impairing you to create. Like if you're so set on like the fact that you can't create something because your gear isn't good enough, then that's when gear is a problem. And that's when like having good gear does matter, because if it's stopping you from creating, then you should probably start thinking about upgrading. But you can make amazing content, photos and videos on your iPhone, because basically everyone has a smartphone, and you can make amazing content on that, or a cheap entry-level mirrorless or DSLR camera.
Yeah, agreed.
So
On
your
gear,
take on
yeah.
gear.
So I'm a big believer that gear does matter. I mean, obviously you have the skill behind the camera, because you can. I mean, the cameras you do with the iPhones is ridiculous. You can do anything with the iPhone with video and photo capabilities. But I think if you really want to like progress and whatnot, like you're gonna have to you don't have to get the better gear, but the gear does matter in the sense that like if you're gonna go shoot a wedding, can you do it with the iPhone? Of course. But you're gonna charge someone $8,000 and they show up and they see you show up with the iPhone, it's like, well, what am I paying you for? You know what I'm saying? But you can very well do it with the iPhone. You can no doubt do it with an iPhone, and you'll get some pretty good images. But obviously, there's like the professional, outlook of it. But I think with certain stuff, certain jobs, you need better stuff. And I think with it's different because in a perfect lighting situation, yeah, like you can take an iPhone picture and a DSLR mirrorless camera right next to it, and they're probably gonna look similar. You know what I'm saying? But when you get down to like the elements thrown into it, like if something's too dark, it's really nice to have a camera that can boost up ISO. You can bring it back in post, the shadows and whatnot. And yeah, you learn how to do that over time, but when you can have a better gear help you, that's when like you kind of see, real improvement. And I mean, gear doesn't limit you sometimes, I guess. I guess it could limit you just the way I just said it, because if it's too dark or something, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a big believer in gear matters. It's just, but I think it would all come down to the person behind the camera at the same time. You have to put in the hours to learn your gear and stuff. And if you do, that's when you'll see the improvement. So if you learn the iPhone, like video capabilities, photo capabilities to the max, like obviously you can only do so much with the iPhone where you'll want to advance and like, either get a professional camera, mirrorless, whatever. But yeah, I'm a big believer in gear does matter.
I want to elaborate on something you made, like a point you made in the beginning, when you were saying like how when you show up to like a wedding with an iPhone, like they're not going to be like impressed. That whole thing does play somewhat of a role. Like even, well, maybe a wedding's not a great example, but like for example, if you show up for an actual TV commercial shoot and you're just carrying like a DSLR, those people will then look at you like you're like an amateur. But in reality, these cameras are capable of like actually producing stuff. So like gear can impress your client. So like for an actual TV commercial shoot, they kind of expect you to show up with like a massive cinema camera, like a matte box, like a over the shoulder, like that type of rig. Whereas like going back to like a wedding example, you're capable of filming it on your iPhone, but it kind of helps get like brownie points with the client if you show up with like a massive rig, because like just for like the everyday person like who doesn't do camera stuff, if they see like a DSLR on like a giant Ronin or like any sort of stabilizer, they're gonna be impressed just by looking at the gear. They're like, these people know what they're doing,
because
even though they know nothing about cameras.
for sure. And it's not like when you're trying to call out a wedding, they're asking you, oh, what are you using? Like they really have no idea. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So they can really care less about the gear as long as they're hiring you for your work, not for the body or the lens that you have. But if you did show up with the iPhone, that's kind of sketchy. So all right, the next thing, what's the best and worst thing about being a photographer or videographer? Whoever wants to go first.
All right. So, best thing, obviously, it has to be you're doing your like favorite passion, favorite hobby as a career. I feel like nobody gets into this if it's just like, yeah, I kind of like it. I feel like most people in photography and filmmaking, it's like their main thing, the thing that makes them the most happy. That's how it is for me. And the worst thing, at least so far for me, has to be being your own boss, which I've found. I mean, not everybody is their own boss in photography and filmmaking, but when like me and Nick have our own company, and it's kind of hard to like make a schedule for yourself and like know exactly what you have to do every single day, at least for us in the beginning. So maybe that might change over the course of a few months, a year, whatever. But there's also like the inconsistency factor. Like you don't know exactly when you're going to get paid, or like how much money you're gonna have this month, how much money you're gonna have this week, whatever. Like I gotta worry about groceries and all that sort of stuff, and you never really know for sure, at least with freelancing, when that paycheck is coming.
For sure.
I would say the worst thing for me is I guess there's two things. One is simply just how hard it is to be successful in this field. Like for anyone, even if you're like really good, it just takes time that I'm willing to put in, but it's just hard to like do everything that we do for like such little reward. And I guess that kind of goes into the second point I was about to make, like specifically with I guess YouTube, the videos I've made there, like one of the worst things about YouTube for me, and I guess every other YouTuber, is when you put so much effort and time into making like a single video and it just tanks, like in the algorithm just doesn't pick it up, like nothing happens, like it gets like 20 views, and like I kind of don't expect my videos to get views anymore. I'm just like, I'm gonna put it out, if it blows up, it blows up. But there have been a couple where I'm like, I put so much time and effort into this, and it's like one of my worst performing videos ever, and that's just really frustrating.
Yeah.
But I just have started to not even anticipate anything. I'm just like, all right, it's up. If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't even care how much time I put into it. But on the other side, the best thing is just being able to document things and like remembering things, events, days. Like wedding videos, yeah, they're great because you can like remember like the greatest day of your life. But then for me personally, it's like all these vlogs I make for YouTube have basically just been to document my life so I can look back on them. And especially now when I've been like laying in bed for like 7 weeks, I've rewatched my own YouTube videos like 2 or 3 times over. Like I just keep rewatching them, and I don't know, I make them for myself so I can do that, and being able to watch them again, that's like my favorite part.
True. Sam, what's your favorite thing about being or the best thing about being you, like a videographer and a photographer? What's the best?
I mean, I kind of just like capturing stuff in a way that's just a little bit more than like your average iPhone photo. Like I've always just kind of been fascinated with how you can like create something that looks like good, you know, with something that's not just your iPhone. Yeah, I guess something about like background blur and, you know, slow motion just draws me to it.
Yeah.
Something about it.
Those slow motions definitely pretty dope. And just to close it out, guys, what are your goals for the future? Maybe do like where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are the goals?
I think me and Nick's goals are probably going to be pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
I think for us, it's got to be, we want to grow our company, C-Mount Media, pretty big. I think event maybe not in 5 years, but maybe longer than that. I think we want to expand into like a bigger production company, and I know for me eventually I would like to have a dedicated office space and shooting space slash gear room, kind of like what you would see at the Peter McKinnon headquarters or something like that. I think that's a dream of mine. It just sounds cool to like have your own office space and just go to it.
Yeah.
You got all your gear there and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, in the broad sense of things, we just want a successful photo and video company that we're looking to expand probably into a few more members, maybe 5 years from now, something like that.
Yeah, that's dope. Nick.
Yeah, basically what he just said. Like, I think in 5 years it is fairly realistic to assume that we will have an office space. I think that's definitely like something we will prioritize, because yeah, just the feeling of like separating work life from like social life,
Yeah.
I find important to like be able to focus. Because right now I'm like, all right, I'm going to work, going to the office, and I get out of bed and walk 10 steps to my desk. Whereas I'd rather like get in a car, drive to the actual office, and like work. But yeah, hopefully 5 years, I would say we would like to have a couple more like employees like helping us, because hopefully our projects will be bigger and we'll need the help.
Yeah.
But yeah, broadly, as he said, just to have like to grow a company, to be able to sustain ourselves with just this.
Yeah, and so I was just freshman in college, so 5 years, that'll be 2026. I'll be 2 years out of college. So I guess by that time, I would like to have something up and running that's consistent and comfortable, basically.
Yeah. That's dope. Big
Do you have
big
any
goals.
plans for your future?
Well, it's funny. I actually have a work meeting at 3. I think it's at 3:00. But we figure out, what they're going to do with my job. So I could call myself like a full-time, photographer or something in the next few months. That's kind of like the goal. That's what I've been wanting to do. So it's kind of like a best blessing in disguise. Like obviously my bank is closing, so kind of gonna see what's next. And right now.
Okay, and before
Yeah,
you
go
finish, oh, sorry, I have like one little
Yeah,
bonus
go
question,
ahead.
but finish your thought. I was gonna say, what are your favorite focal lengths? Just real quick, and why? I'll start. I guess mine's 50 mil.
50 mil is good.
Because I think it's a good middle ground, and I'm able to like use it as a wide angle by just physically being farther back, and it's like a weird wideness yet compressed look that I just like to do.
Go ahead, Tim.
I think I wouldn't really pick a specific focal length other than maybe a 50, because I think I've hopped on the 50 millimeter train with Nick. But if we're just gonna talk like lenses, I think ideally I would like to have a holy trinity of lenses, whatever you call it. That could be like a wide angle zoom. So I'm looking to get a 16 to 35 soon. Nick knows that. I complain about it all the time. I'm still using a kit lens. And then we could do like a mid-range prime. So right now I have like a 50 mil 1.8, like a cheap Sony one. So maybe I'd end up upgrading to like a Sigma one like Nick has. And then a nice telephoto zoom again. So that's probably like a 70 to 200. I know there's some cheaper options like a 70 to 180 and stuff like that, but those are my three, kind of like the holy trinity. But if you told me I could only shoot on one focal length for the remainder of time, I'd probably say either 50 or 35.
Yep. Mine would be the 35 millimeter. It's just like, I don't know, such a beautiful lens. I have a 35 1.4, and it's just, I can kind of do everything with it. Nice portrait lens, but also you have like the wide enough where you can take like a decent landscape and stuff. But 35 millimeter, that's probably what I'd be going with.
Yeah, I definitely want a 35. Like, I'm a sucker for primes.
Yeah,
like
that's how I started.
I don't care about like having like 5 or 6 lenses in my bag, I would rather have like primes than like 3
That's
zooms.
what I have right now. I have a 35, 15, 85. And then my kit lens on my Nikon is a 24 to 70. And man, this 24 to 70 kit lens is like probably a hair sharper than my Sigmas. And like, it's just so good. But for what I do now, like since I do more sports, it's nice to have like a good zoom lens. So that's where I'm kind of lacking, because I only have the prime lenses, but they are good. I love them. Yeah. But anyway, so thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Nick and Sam's socials and everything, Instagram, YouTube, will be in the description below. So yeah, thank you guys again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Great host.
Sweet. Hey, I tried, man. You guys are the guests, man.
Wait, sorry. Do I cut now?